Hey, it's your old pal Slim, and this is 70mm, a podcast for film lovers just like you. Every Monday, I chat about recently watched movies with my close friend and artist, Danny Haas. And our spiritual advisor and movie insider, Proto Lexus.
I mean, $8. $8 for, what do I get with $8 again? I get verified?
Our featured discussion later in this episode is my pick for this month's theme, Movies About Movies, and it's Millennium Actress. Feel free to skip ahead to that discussion using the chapters in your podcast app. Is this movie the purest love letter to Japanese cinema? Or is it just too dang confusing, and will it put you to sleep? Let's find out together. We got to get into it. We're getting a lot of DMs asking us, what do the 70mm hosts think of all this Twitter stuff? You guys see this Twitter stuff?
Oh,
bro?
my God, you are not.
Elon Musk bought Twitter, and they're going to charge for a verification badge. Are you going to buy one? You're going to become a verified Twitter user.
I thought you were going to say the on the Twitter, the letterbox tweeting out Timothy Chalamet pictures.
That's the real hot topic.
That was hot today too in the Discord. But
spicy.
I mean, $8. $8 for, what do I get with $8 again? I get verified?
Verified. We'll be verified.
You get verified.
You get a movie insider on Twitter.
Oh, is this in the budget?
That
is this what pushes me over the edge?
You imagine Proto beating the algorithm by paying $8 a month to become the verified movie insider. Officially, this is what we need.
There's a vacuum out there of people talking about movies on Twitter, and I'm ready to fill it.
Our 2 Patreon tiers just went up $4 each.
We need to talk to our accountant, aka Amanda's aunt, that we can clear this once and for all.
Yeah.
This is Movies About Movies Month. We're continuing on. Last week, Danny kicked it off with Hail Caesar. You know, the Coen brothers. 4.5 banged. Danny did that movie.
He loved it.
Loved it.
4.5. But later in this show is my pick, Millennium Actress, Satoshi Kon. I saw at least 2 reviews on Letterboxd about people falling asleep while watching it. Maybe 3.
One was a host.
One of them is a host. So we will get to the nitty gritty. Use the chapters in your podcast app to skip ahead to that discussion if you want to cut through the BS. Except if you're using Spotify. You can't use chapters in Spotify. That's not our fault. Danny.
Yes.
I saw that you watched Steven Spielberg, Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Is that true?
Yeah, it is true. I have a project I'm working on. I needed a little R&D. It's been a while since I've watched Close Encounters. And it's just so good. And what I didn't realize in Close Encounters was how much modern, I say modern, 90s to early 2000s alien invasion movies pull from this movie. There's so much kind of taken out of this. Independence Day comes to mind. Science even comes to mind a little bit. And I just love Close Encounters. It's just a lot of fun. Love the ending. I'm always baffled by the choices that Dreyfuss's character makes throughout this entire film.
Yeah.
But it's just a fun movie. It really is.
When's the anniversary? Should we do that episode? Like a bonus?
I think this year is the 35th anniversary.
Oh.
That may lend to why I'm doing some work on it.
Oh.
But it's happened this year. We can drop it at some point.
Drop it.
Oh. Put it on the books.
Sounded like Yoda. Oh. What do you think about Close Encounters, Proto? Have you watched it recently as an adult?
No, I haven't. I've seen it, but when I
It was
think
a
of
nice 4K release too.
all I can think of is just like him with the mashed potatoes. That's like the only thing that comes to mind.
Yeah, same.
All the things. Shaving cream.
I mean, that setup that they have at the end with like all those scientists, holy cow. How come that's
Should
not a
we-
Disney attraction? Right?
Oh. I mean, they had Alien Encounter, which was nothing like it. But yeah.
Grugrox in chat. If Danny didn't choose already, he would have chosen the Fablemans with all this talk.
Should we just...
We're doing the Fablemans.
Guys, we're doing
It's
the
over.
Fablemans.
Please.
It's settled. We're doing the Fablemans.
2 weeks out.
It's going to officially close out Movies About Movies month.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think it's like the 6th week of the month or something. I don't know how this math works out.
Doesn't matter.
But maybe we should announce the other news too.
Go ahead.
Just get it all out on the table. We spoke to legal.
Mm-hmm.
Legal made us sign some updated contracts. They said it's safe to do voting again. They cleared everything. They said they saw what's happening with Musk and Twitter.
Yeah.
It's all
Yeah.
smooth sailing. So let's continue on with our own voting process. So we're doing 2 votes. Details will be out and about on our Patreon. 2 votes. So before the Fablemans, our supporters will choose the movie for Movies About Movies month after Proto's pick. So next week's Proto's pick, the week after that, the patrons pick, and then Fablemans. So it's time to put your money where your mouth is
God.
and settle this
We
once
will
and
give
for
you
all.
a blue check.
And then the second vote, we did a vote for our pilot episodes, which are just supporter only episodes. And that episode ended up being The Sopranos. So we're going to do a second vote. It went so well. And when I say it went so well, it's that no one could see the voting results during the vote. That went so well for the 3 of us. We're going to do it all again. And folks can vote for the next episode of the pilot season.
Smooth sailing.
Proto, you've run the numbers with legal. How do you feel about this?
I think we are, we're in perfect shape now. There's nothing can go wrong. They can't get to us anymore.
Yeah.
They can't get us.
We're untouchable.
They can't hurt us anymore, Proto. So stay tuned. If you're listening live or if you're listening for the uncut episode, the details will be emailed out to our patrons for voting process, absentee ballots, all that stuff. Proto, did you watch anything?
Yeah, I got to watch one movie. I watched a new release on Netflix, All Quiet on the Western Front.
What?
Oh,
This just came out.
what's the new movie?
Yeah, this is a new movie just released on Netflix. And
Reboot.
as the Netflix way, I don't even know how I heard about this movie. You know, Netflix doesn't advertise anything. I think I might have caught like a trailer on Twitter a few months back or something. I'm not really sure. But, the First World War, interesting to me. I saw 1917, right? We all saw that movie. We covered that movie.
God.
What a movie. And this movie looked like it was going to be high quality. And it is. It looks incredible. But I don't know, there was something off about it to me. I couldn't really put my finger on it. I guess I didn't really connect with the characters. They didn't feel well developed in a certain way. And it felt almost more like the movie was like a glimpse into what the war was actually like, which is pretty incredible. I mean, like the battle scenes are like legit. Like they look authentic as, I guess I could imagine it to be. So, I mean, it's gruesome. It's much more gruesome than 1917. But maybe that's part of it. Like 1917 is still fresh in my mind. And I was like so moved by that movie that maybe I like compared the two. And I just didn't really affect me in the same way that 1917 did. But I mean, if you're looking for like a gorgeous movie that tells, I think an important story that time. It's fascinating because this time it's from the German perspective. So, and you can watch it in German. It's, it's all German actors. So which I really enjoyed. At first, when you put it on, it has like a British translation, and you can just, you can tell that it's not what they were speaking, and it just sounded terrible. So I put the German on.
Interesting.
Yeah. Do
you remember in the 1917 episode where I called the Germans Nazis?
Yes. All-time moment.
One of the earliest slim flubs in the history of this podcast. That was like I think that was episode 2, right? Was that 2 or 3 or something?
Very early on.
Yeah, very early.
It was so long ago and so early in the podcast history that I think I even titled that like Oscar special edition set at 1917 or something. We were still figuring things out back then,
Almost 3 years ago.
Every week, we give out a free year of Letterboxd Pro. Disclaimer, I'm a Letterboxd employee. You can either share the show on social media or tag your review with 70mm Pod. And I saw this review pop my feed. It wasn't tagged 70mm Pod. It was tagged 70mm Podcast. But luckily, I was searching that tag anyway. And it was one of those people that fell asleep while watching Millennium Actress.
Oh.
Dang, this is pretty, and I dug the inventive storytelling, but I must have come at this wrong because it took 3 attempts to finish without falling asleep. And I developed a huge crush on the antagonist. And this is from a close personal friend of ours who just won another year of Letterboxd Pro. That's Art.
Oh my gosh.
Performance_art. What a username on Letterboxd.
That's his username?
Yeah.
Wow.
Poof. Congrats, Art.
Art, don't spend it all in one place, please. Last week and previous weeks, Proto tasked me with watching the Cabinet of Curiosities.
Oh, yes.
And finishing it and giving him episodes to watch, telling him what were the good ones. So I'm happy to report that there are 4 good ones out of 8. So 50% success rate.
Failing.
The last one is my favorite one, Jennifer Kent, Babadook, The Murmuring, and what's the lead from The Walking Dead? What's that guy's name?
Carl?
John Bernthal.
We were
Not
both
John
wrong.
Bernthal. Andrew Lincoln, but what's his character's name? I've read like freaking every issue and I can't remember the lead character's name in The Walking Dead. Rick
Jeff.
Grimes.
Rick.
Anyway, he is also in it with the lead from The Babadook, Essie Davis. So Essie Davis and Andrew Lincoln are a married couple in the final episode. The episode before that was the one that I had mentioned last week that I was about to watch, the Panos Cosmatos creator from Mandy. His episode is nuts. Nuts. So probably you need to watch The Viewing, The Murmuring, and 2 other ones, the Autopsy episode and The Outside from Anna Lily Amirpour. Those are the good ones.
I'll put that on my list for next October.
Oh, golly. Listen, I'm getting griefed in chat for not remembering the lead from The Walking Dead.
Ignore them.
Everyone had The Walking Dead in every section of their life for like 5 years. You had enough. You blocked it out.
Yeah,
you couldn't escape Walking Dead anywhere at a con or a comic shop. Remember that, Danny? You remember.
I don't want to talk about it.
I'm bringing up PTSD right now.
Yeah.
I've tried to erase all from my memory. All of it.
Danny's hands are shaking.
Danny used to own a comic book shop, folks.
I don't want to talk about that either.
I'm sorry. We need to change
The
topics.
pain.
Sorry. What not to do when someone has PTSD about owning a comic shop? Bring up The Walking Dead. That's probably the number one thing on the list.
Walking Dead.
Coral.
Do you have the Watchmen?
Coral. Batman Hush.
Okay.
How many Batman Hushes do you sell in that comic shop on a weekly basis, you think?
The trade paperback, we sold probably 5 a week.
Oh my God.
Should we do a Batman Hush episode?
No.
Oh my goodness gracious. All right. Is it time to get into it? Millennium Actress. I think I watched this on Canopy or the other library one, the other library service. Hoopla. Might have been a Hoopla, John. And this was my pick for Movies About Movies Month. Ma'am. Carter, what's this movie about?
Chiyoko Fujiwara is a retired actress who, after a successful film career, becomes a recluse. After the studio that produced her films closes its doors, a longtime employee, now turned documentarian, seeks her out to tell her story. As her filmography and path to stardom is discussed, her personal life and a mysterious man from her childhood whose identity has eluded her becomes entwined. Film, history, and Chiyoko's own story meld together, leaving us with a world where art and life collide. Millennium Actress.
Beautiful work.
Thank you.
It's taking it up a notch for man.
Yeah.
I never would have expected it. I had seen Perfect Blue, which is the movie that I referenced last week right before I selected this movie. And that one, I feel like not just movie people, but like people I knew, just friends of mine had seen that movie and had always recommended it to me as like this, you have to see this. You know, this movie is insane. It's going to blow your mind. And I remember watching it and I like didn't get it for like the first 75% of the movie. And then the final act happened and I was like, whoa, okay. Yeah, this is pretty wild. So I was interested since then to watch more of his films. And he died young. He was, I think, in his 40s, late 30s. So robbed of his genius. And this one had popped up on some of those lists that I was researching for movies about movies. So I figured it would be a great time to check it out, to see what else he had up his sleeve. Was this movie ever on your horizons when you were thinking about Perfect Blue or even before that?
No. And even after I think I saw Perfect Blue, I probably looked at Satoshi Kon's other movies, but I hadn't heard of any of them. So it wasn't like, oh, this is the other one I knew. Let me put this, on my watch list. So yeah, and I don't think I had, ever heard of this until you brought it up last week.
Yeah, no, I haven't heard of it. I'd only ever seen Paprika, which I didn't realize this was the same director for both. And then Perfect Blue has always been just one to watch, and I've never done it. So I think after this, I'm for sure going to watch Perfect Blue. And I think I really want to watch Paranoia Agent 2. That looked really good as well.
Paranoia Agent. Hello. The other one that I'd heard of was Tokyo Godfathers, and Paprika was another one too. Going into this selection, I saw a lot of reviews calling this a love letter to Japanese cinema over the decades. So other than that, I wasn't really sure what to expect. So for this segment, we'll go through, each host writes down 3 things. We'll go round table and then give our final letterbox rating to wrap things up. I'll start slow. I want to talk about the animation in this movie. I love the animation style in this movie. And I guess it's maybe common for noobs like me to compare it to Ghibli, Miyazaki, but and that's probably a dumb thing to do, but I'm going to do it anyway. But it's really all I know out of mainstream films like this that are outside of the States. But there's something about the animation in this that feels like a different sort of dynamic. And I think it had to do a lot of it with the transitions that he would use in almost every scene. The most notable one that jumped out at me to start was there was one scene where she's throwing the snowballs angrily. And there's one where she throws it, and as it hits, it transitions to her running through the snow. And the snowball exploding is her foot running through the snow. And there's so many cool moments like that just left me almost in awe of the animation style. And I guess transitions were never anything that I was fascinated with in an animated movie, until I sat down to watch this. So I wonder, Perta, what did you think of the animation style?
Yeah, I love the style. One of my favorite techniques is where it'll look like it's just like a still picture. That was used like early on, where I think it's like just a car, like a row of cars just standing at a traffic light. And then like if there is something moving, it'll be just like single frames. I've always loved that style, and just that it makes it feel just like more like, I guess, yeah, like stylistic, like making stylistic choices rather than searching or trying to make something look as real as possible, which I feel like is what you get more in, like Western animation, where it's like, oh, let's just like make this look as crisp and real as possible rather than making the animation in a more stylistic way. But I think that has changed with more like recent stuff, like we've talked about, like Into the Spider-Verse and whatnot. Yeah, but the transitions were amazing in this. There were so many cool moments.
I think it's even, I think it is fair to compare this to Studio Ghibli, because there's what he does well in this also that I found that connects me to Ghibli movies is the attention to detail and things that don't matter. The wood grain on the planks in the room, or just the tea sitting on the table when she's like running through the city and just kind of around cars and stuff. The way the car stops, the reflections on the cars. There were so many, I mean, not just the transitions, but even like, there were so many running scenes in this movie, which I feel is a part of the big metaphor of this film. But the styles that this goes through, the painted kind of scenes to even scenes that felt like paper cut kind of flat animation, it just felt like it like kind of went through the gamut of what was available artistically that could be animated at that time. They were just kind of pushing it all to the boundaries with this, and every scene kind of felt it. I think my favorite transition was the guy running with the rickshaw, and he trips as it cuts to her riding on the bike down the hill. Like, it was such a insane transition that I've thought about it a couple times.
I felt like this had the craziest backgrounds, like the same flashback with the snowball stuff, but like just the snow-covered city around her, I thought just looked insane. It looks so real, with just dirty snow in some areas on steps and like the cleaner snow in the center. Just insane stuff. Pardo, what's your number one?
Well, I guess a scene that I loved was the montage at the end of her running, where it was kind of like a reshot of the whole movie, of her playing all these different characters and showing her running in basically like every scene of the movie, and just like having them all back to back like that, and then like them cut together. It was just so cool. I love that moment. And I guess I realized it too, that it's like, oh yeah, there's a lot of running in this. She seems to always be
so much running.
But when you when you get to that scene and you see it all at once together, you're like, dang, okay, this wasn't like an accident. Of course, this is intentional, and it all really comes together nicely there.
It's funny you say that, because I think every time we talked about a Ghibli movie, I commented on how much I love the running animation. That's also like my number one thing. I was like, man, that running looks so realistic.
It's so much in this.
Yeah.
Which isn't an easy thing to do, because, it's so funny. The thing that has always drove me crazy about the Clone Wars series, and any of that team that does the animation, they have like this goofy running animation that they do for all the characters. Yeah, it's super stiff, and it takes me out of it, because it doesn't fit with like the other way things are animated. It's so weird.
Yeah, and it's so well done. I mean, drawing a human body stationary is hard enough, but to draw it in full out sprint, going through different genres of Japanese cinema, it's impressive.
Trainer just linked to the Steve Martin running from Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. I mean,
Trainer just got banned.
The helicopter legs of Steve Martin need to be investigated by scientists for decades to see how this was possible. Danny, what's the first thing that you want to talk about?
The first thing I would love to talk about is the story itself. And for me, I got real frustrated in the beginning, almost to the end of this, watching it, because it felt very, I was getting lost, not lost as in, like I didn't kind of understand what was going on, but it was more like, why am I not connecting with this more? When she is telling her real life story to the fanboy, to the documentarian, and as it progresses through her life, and as her real life meshes with her career as an actress, I was totally not getting it for so long in this film that it was starting to frustrate me a bit. And then when I realized, kind of at the end, when when I figured it out, like this was kind of her way of just kind of telling her story, but through her career as an actress, I was like, oh, this is brilliant. Like, this is a brilliant way to kind of tell this story. And it frustrates me because I want to watch it again so bad now that I fully have my brain wrapped around what he was doing with this story, because I was a bit frustrated as my first time sitting down with this.
Probably you fell asleep while watching it, right?
I was watching it really, really late the one night, and I was slouched down too far. My eyes did shut for a moment, but I looked at the time. How much did I miss? And then I sat up and I was good. But I agree, Danny. The thing that frustrated me the most was this relationship with this mysterious man with the key. And maybe this is the point, but the fact that she was so invested and like obsessed with this guy her whole life, but she didn't really like know him. That just like, it just like bothered me so much that this guy was like the main figure, the thing that she's been searching for her whole life, but that she didn't even really know. And it kind of like drove me crazy the whole time watching this. And I guess, I'm sure that's like part of like the point of the way it was written. It wasn't accidental, but it just kind of like irked me the whole time. I'm like, let's why? I just felt like I needed a reason, because it didn't feel like the whole movie was allegorical or like just metaphorical. It felt like, no, this was actually her life, but for some reason she has this fascination with this person for other than like just having this key. And it just felt like a stretch for me. Like I didn't really buy it. So I kind of struggled with that the whole viewing.
I also was like, I couldn't understand the key aspect as well. And then I couldn't figure out why each movie she was in told the same story, but then it all came together. But one thing I kind of like snapped at the end, when she sees the painting on the moon, he's not there. She's reached the end of her kind of journey of searching for him. That's when I was like, oh, this is the metaphor. She's chasing after her art. Like he's the artist, but it's really the art of her story. That was the key to her entire thing. She was the journey of itself, of coming to the end of her career, her story, and kind of wrapping it up that way. Now I'm like, God, I need to start this over, watch this again, because there was so much more to how he was telling the story than my pea brain picked up right away.
Yeah, that was my main takeaway too. It's like, dang, I really need to rewatch this. Like I should rewatch this. I wanted to rewatch it before we did this, but I couldn't really fit it in, because I feel like it really deserves that. And I even read that people said that they found like Perfect Blue to be more confusing than this, but I didn't find Perfect Blue to be really confusing at all. Like that whole movie, I felt like I tracked with and understood it. This kind of feels like it was like harder for me to grasp as I was watching it.
Yeah, I did see some reviews come in about that, because when it starts, you have the interviewer and his cameraman wanting to document her. She's become a recluse, and they showed the very first flashback of her being asked to become an actor, and they're there in the flashback.
Yeah.
Like they're filming the flashback. And then that was the first time I rewound. I was like, wait a minute, they're there? Like, what's going on? And the whole movie is that. It's like the journey through her memories of these movies and real life events and movie events with the interviewer and the cameraman there documenting it. And then at some points he joins in the memories. So it's so experimental in the storytelling that I can totally see that being like completely confusing. So I did watch it twice. I rewatched it this morning to try to see if I could see like other things that I missed on the second viewing. Notably, like the reveal that the scumbag Junichi, the director, and Ioki plotted against her with the fortune teller to like tell her to get out of town to follow the guy with the key. And then they hid the key so he could like have her fall in love with him. Because the whole time I was like, our interviewer is so agitated when anytime this guy's name gets brought up. Remember, like she would bring his name up, he'd be like getting red and he's like fists were clenching and he like knew that like something happened between them. And the whole time I kept coming back to Aronofsky because Aronofsky, what's that movie? Black Swan is very similar to Perfect Blue. And the whole time I kept thinking of like, man, if Aronofsky also made this movie, people would be pooping in their pantaloons. Like genius, like Natalie Portman as the Millennium Actress in this. God. And Aronofsky doing his like effed up filmmaking, they'd be giving 5 bangs to this thing until the cows came home. Yeah. Like Natalie Portman in the spacesuit walking towards the painting. Dudes would be fainting in the aisles, praising Aronofsky and maybe voting him president at some point. Like that's the whole thing I was thinking of. Like a live action version of this would be a sensation, I feel like. And I loved seeing the animated version of this because a lot of this would be expensive to film live action. Them going to these various sets, the samurai backstory. I was so taken by it. It was so inventive. I think that's my like first point is like the almost like innovation of the storytelling for this movie. I've never seen anything like it. To the comments about like her being obsessed, it definitely felt like an obsession for her to be so infatuated with this, mystery and the key and the aspect of that. And I almost felt like the witch character was like her coming to grips with her obsession. Like her, because the witch said like, I love you, but I also hate you. And like a varying degrees of that kind of sentiment. And it's almost like her coming to grips with like, how much time have you wasted? Or you could have been doing anything else with your life, but you're still obsessed with this key and what it means to find him. Which is also, I thought was pretty crazy how like later she even realizes like how foolish I was. Like, what is he supposed to think when he sees me 30, 20, 50 years later? Like, I'm an idiot. How could I ever think that this would be a thing that would end positively? Which I thought was pretty cool to see her realize.
I felt like the witch was also her and her aging as an actress as well. And all the time she spent also searching for this guy. She's also aging. She's getting older. This is like her obsession. It was interesting adding that witch in, but I know that's like a direct homage to Japanese cinema, that witch with the spinning wheel.
Yeah. A. Gilbert just posted the Throne of Blood screenshot, and that was the first thing I thought of too. I watched that for the Letterboxd show. That's the only reason I even have watched Throne of Blood, but the characters are like identical pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was going to be my my second point, was just that the homages, and particularly that one from Throne of Blood, and just what you're saying about like that, how that old woman could be like her as her older self. I think from what I remember of that story, that witch is a fortune teller, and gives Macbeth, I think that's Macbeth's story, gives him like, his future, So in some ways, like that would make a lot of sense, even not just as like an homage, but also as like a, prediction of like where her life is going to end up. Like as if this is a version of herself who's speaking to her from the future about like how things will turn out, which is pretty wild. Yeah. I was trying to see if like there was more, because that was like the only one that I knew. Apparently there's like another one, an homage to the director of Tokyo Story and a few other big movies, Yasujiro Ozu, which I haven't seen any of his movies.
Is it time?
It might be time.
The fortune teller scene, the old man fortune teller scene in particular, I saw on the second rewatch, because when he's giving her, he's like, oh yes, I know this man with the key. He went so-and-so. His eyes are like darting to the left at like off screen, and that like nephew catches that, and then he looks behind him and you see that shadowy figure in the background, and that was Yaiko like plotting this entire thing. I want her incarcerated. I want both of them incarcerated. Scum. IMO. Danny, what's your number 2?
My number 2 is a little disappointment. And I think it's just because of my comparison to Ghibli films. I was a little let down on the score in this. I don't know why I didn't really connect with it or even notice it as like a big part of it, but I feel like I missed it. Like I feel like it wasn't memorable enough in a film where everything is kind of slowly wowing me. The animation's amazing. The storytelling got me at the end, but I never remembered like this kind of score. And like Joe's work on the Ghibli films, there's always moments where I'm like, this is like a beautiful piece for this movie. But I feel like it was just missing for me in this.
Pardo?
I mean, honestly, I can't recall the music at all.
Yeah.
So
I honestly couldn't either. I looked to see Susumu Hirasawa did the Berserk. I think that's what he's most known for, the music on Berserk. However, I don't really remember the music either. So Danny is
sorry I brought it up. Jeez.
You're brave, right?
Yeah, very brave. This is a safe space.
Reviews.
Although to be honest, I don't really remember any of the Ghibli music either, so that's on me. Ghibli
that's
heads.
The other Slim.
That's me. That was me that said that. Everyone calm down, please. My number 3 is, our lead character, the interviewer, who tracks her down. He has the key and he brings that as a gift for this interview after decades. And from the synopsis that I read last week, it kind of alluded to like, he brings this key, but he learned something about himself too. And I didn't really get that necessarily from the movie. I thought that was a stupid line to keep in. And it kind of like distracted me from the movie. I was like, is he her son? Or like, are they related? What is the secret to this guy? So I wish that wasn't there. However, I loved him in this movie. I loved his expressions in this movie. The voice acting is phenomenal for him. So the version on Canopy or Hoopla or whatever is not the dub. I think a dub exists. So I watched the subtitled version both times. So I've never heard like an English language version. And he was amazing. I loved that he essentially was like this pure character, that just held her up to this like high standard of almost like, I guess like a god or a princess to him. And there wasn't anything nefarious. Like he just wanted the best for her. And he was like in love with her. Like he kind of says that I think at the end, but it wasn't forced as like to his number one being. Like I'm not in love with you. I need to be with you. He just wanted the best for her. And I also love that scene where they first come out of the flashback or the scene like where they're in the movie together, where she needs to like find her lord and he appears in full armor.
Yeah.
And it cuts to present day and they're both just like jumping up and down on the chairs, like riding the horses, and the cameraman is just like standing in between them. All that stuff was so fun. Him turning red at various points, him being angry when she brought up those two characters because he knows the deception that they brought into her life in the later years. I loved him. And there was also that scene where the cameraman, where he comes back into another scene and the cameraman turns around and you don't see him, but he's like, you must be joking. And it's like him in full like armor, or like he's another mystery character that appears in the flashback. I thought their relationship was just so well done in this.
Yeah, I loved like the image too, that the reason the reason I felt like he played parts in the flashbacks is because he's so familiar with these pictures, and like he saw them all, you know, and knows them so well that as if she was like talking about them and telling them about telling them about it, he was like, yes, and he could relive it as well, as if he was there. And it's kind of like a beautiful picture of how meaningful movies can be to people. You know, like movies can become part of us, you know, like we can identify, like we can learn things about ourselves, and you know, they comfort us in different ways. And just like they can have so much meaning that can be just like someone you don't even know. And I think that's what's beautiful about art as well, because like here's this actress who she actually worked with this guy, but she didn't recognize him at all. But like these things that she made are so meaningful to him, and she has no idea. And like that can be true of like any art.
Good night, everybody. One of the things that I noticed that I liked about his story that mirrored her story is the key aspect as well. How he had found the key after she had quit and disappeared, and his journey with the key to find her again, how it mirrored her story with journeying with the key to find her lost love. Like he loved her as much as she loved the artist.
Danny just cracked this wide open.
It was a really nice thing to realize at the end. That they're both their journeys. The key was finding their love at the end.
Dang.
Just a random aside. When they're first walking to her home and they go under that bridge, that audio of them talking on that bridge was amazing. Just the echo of them, just the little, like, why put them under a bridge? But it was there and the audio was great.
One other cool thing they do with the two of them in the beginning, when she starts telling her stories, they're just kind of there filming her in the early stages when she's young. As they get more and more intertwined, the coloring of the two of them change. So they're very bright, vibrant. The older films that she in are more black and white films, and they're very modern colored because they're just documenting the photos. But as they become more and more intertwined with the story, he's wearing the armors and all that kind of stuff. They become muted and more in what's going on with the films. And I thought that was very smart in storytelling wise.
Pardo, your final note?
I feel like we covered most of it. Yeah, I also just loved and was really impressed by just all the different like eras that were covered in this in terms of like, you know, these different movies that they're in. I loved also the cold open of her getting onto the spaceship.
Oh yeah.
My God. Like I could watch a whole movie of just like whatever, like I want to watch that movie, whatever that was.
Right.
I want to see that movie. And then how it wrapped up together at the end actually kind of gave me Interstellar vibes.
Yeah, I got that too.
Which I loved.
Is it time?
Oh my gosh.
Is it the anniversary of Interstellar?
I think it's next year, actually.
CC Ian, former producer. Ian has said many times that if we did an Interstellar episode, he wants to be on it. We'll see.
We'll see.
We'll see.
Directors with Scarves Month.
Scarved directors a month.
Putting in the dock.
Danny, what's your final note?
We've talked about so much. I know that I find this movie hard to talk about. I really do, because this deserves a second watch. I know there was no way I was going to connect with it right away in the first watch, but it really does deserve two watches. I think also what Proto just said, my favorite aspect of this is them celebrating Japanese cinema, because until we started doing the podcast, I was so lost in any of that until we watched like Seven Samurai and Ran. Yeah, all these movies that were new to me that I've only ever heard about. And it was nice to watch that, just this nod to Japanese cinema, because there's so much more that I want to watch that I just need to find time for. And I feel like this kind of is pushing me back into Japanese cinema for sure. I love that they just threw in Godzilla, because I know how big that is for Japanese cinema. I feel like we just kind of, I don't know. I think obviously Americans poke fun at it all, but I don't think we take it as seriously as it was over there. So I think it was nice to kind of see that thrown in there as well.
Godzilla's in the Criterion. That was that disc that I brought back, took home.
Wow.
There's a comment that I wanted to highlight from Philip. Interstellar overrated. Did you see that comment in chat?
No, I've already deleted it.
Honorable mentions from me. The earthquake stuff was something I noticed on the second watch. You know, the movie starts out with him watching the tapes of her films, and he's watching that like science fiction movie that Proto mentioned, and the earthquake happens as she's going off in the rocket. And there's just several moments where something, you know, otherworldly is causing the earthquakes to happen. You know, I don't know. It just felt like all of her story was really just connected to the earthquakes every time they happened. Oh, when she's looking for the guy, the painter, and the shopkeep is there, and he's like, yeah, someone raided the house, because she's looking for him. They were supposed to meet, and he got a message relayed from the painter. So he's like, oh, I don't know where he is. And then he goes to her and whispers like, oh, he's so-and-so. He said that you'll meet again. But as he's whispering to her in her ear, he winks like to her behind her eyes. Like she can't see him wink, but he still winks. It was like the weirdest scene. Cracked me up. The scene and movie switching. I did see I think Trainer commented that the ending of the movie, he wished that the final line wasn't included and just kind of left to your interpretation at that point, because the final line does kind of just like solidify, like nudges you with the elbow, like get it, like this is the meaning of the film for her, sort of. Another thing that we didn't talk about is the soldier that was responsible for finding him all those years did end up finding him and was responsible for his death. And he like came to like tell her, you know, years later, and apologize and give her a note. I thought that was pretty crazy. That was the same guy. But the filmmaking is just so inventive in this. I really appreciated it. It's so different. 4 stars. Millennium Actress from me. Glad we watched it.
Goodness.
Pardo?
Yeah, I feel like 4 stars is the correct rating. I will say though, like this viewing, I really struggled with it. I think because of like what I was saying about like just not really tracking with it at the beginning, being thrown off by like her obsession with the key. And of course, like now it kind of makes sense. But while I was watching it, I was just like so frustrated. And it kind of took me out of it this viewing, and I really want to rewatch it again. But if I'm honest, this was a 3-star viewing for me.
3-star viewing. Okay.
Yeah, I'm with you, Proto. I think as frustrated I was at the beginning, not tracking with this, the need to watch it again is like high for me, because I feel like when I watch this again, I could have this potentially be up there with my love of like Akira and, you know, Princess Mononoke or Nausicaa, like these major animated films. I feel like this would reach that point in a second rewatch. But for now, I'm sticking with you, Matt. It's a 4-star.
Oh.
This is a great watch. I had a great time watching it. It's for the animation alone. I mean, this deserves a watch. It feels original and some really impressive work.
Natalie Portman getting in that rocket.
Take me.
Ya girl, Natalie Portman. All right, Millennium Actress. We did it. Satoshi Kon. And I'm going to move his other films up my watch list. I need to get moving. Joe Jazzy confirms a very nice 87-minute runtime too. Dave's asking for artwork, but we are recording this several days early. So I don't believe the artwork will be ready until later in the week. That's on me, okay? That's on me. Having us record on a Tuesday. I got a busy week. I'm seeing Black Panther tomorrow.
That's what it was.
I'm seeing Black Panther tomorrow, and I'm seeing Bones. Is it Bones and All on Thursday?
Bones and All.
Busy week. Busy week.
Busy week.
We have a VM. You can leave us one at using the links on 70mmpod.com. You can send us an audio memo, whatever you want. There's links on there. Let's see what we got here.
Hey there, guys. It's Bryce here. Go by Brendan Fraser on the Patreon and Discord and all that good stuff. First time leaving a message here and catching up. Just heard the most recent pod, and I'm hearing you guys are going after Satoshi Kon, Millennium Actress. Gotta say, got real excited when I heard that. Just listened to it, rushed to the bathroom at work, kind of hiding right now. Film. What a director. Lost him too soon. That's it. Kind of a sad way to end it. Really excited. Can't wait to hear what you guys say. Bye.
Bryce, all-time first
From
VM.
the turlet.
Forrest in chat, quote, log job for that VM.
It's an official log job.
I also am cracking up thinking of like someone walking in when you're leaving that VM and you have to like cut it abruptly short. Gotta pinch that VM off.
Yeah, yes. Talk to you later, honey.
Talk to you later. Love you.
That.
Bye. Who among us hasn't had to cut a podcast VM short like that and fake a goodbye? All right. So earlier in the show, we talked about after Proto's pick, we're putting it to a vote. The power is yours. Vote or die.
Oh. Appropriate day for this.
It is. Yeah. Midterm elections. I'm sure everything's going to go well.
Yeah, we did it.
What could go wrong? But the power is in your hands. The vote is coming back. Our supporters will choose the movie before the Fablemans. But now, Proto's turn to reveal the pick.
This is huge.
I thought I had my pick ready to go, but then last week,
oh no,
Slim, he
did it.
He talked about taking chances.
Oh my God.
Taking chances because we got a big lineup. We got a lot of smash hits coming.
Yeah.
And of course, I'm hesitant. I remember every time I think of taking a chance, I think of Mr. Nobody, and I can remember those feelings that I had. But you know what? I gotta take a chance. And when Slim, he opened the door by saying that he was thinking about picking a documentary.
Oh,
I was a light went on because there's a documentary that I've been thinking about for 3 years doing on this show.
What?
Yeah, it's been, I was like, I've been always thinking, how can we weasel in a documentary? So when Slim Producer, he set the precedent saying, we can do documentaries, at least as long as it's about a movie, this week, I had to take my shot. So,
oh my God.
The documentary that I have picked is from 2017, starring Jim Carrey. It's called Jim and Andy.
What?
It's a documentary, behind the scenes look when Jim Carrey was making the movie Man on the Moon. And he adopted the persona of the comedian who it's about, Andy Kaufman. He did like method acting for like the entire time this movie was being made. So I watched this back in 2017 and it's on Netflix. It's a Netflix documentary. So it's there for everyone to watch.
My goodness.
And I can't wait. I can't wait to talk about it.
I just took a screen cap of Danny's reaction. I'm posting it in chat. when Proto takes a chance. I'm stunned with this pick. I remember
Me too.
hearing on like Entertainment Tonight or some BS when this movie was being filmed about how annoying Jim Carrey was and how troubled the production was because he was an a-hole. He was Andy Kaufman, and people were like losing their minds at the time. That was like, I feel like that was the press story for that movie. It was like Jim Carrey being a weirdo on the set of Man on the Moon tonight. Wow. I'm stunned.
Casey in chat, should we watch Man on the Moon first?
Oh.
It's not a bad idea. Yeah.
Paul in chat says yes.
Yeah, I think I might try to watch sneak it in.
We got time.
We do have time.
We do have time.
Early.
Yeah.
Does this have a
stars
director
aligning.
listed? Or is it? I can't even see it.
Ryan Johnson.
Get the fuck out of here.
I think it's Chris Smith.
That sounds like a made-up name.
Total made-up name.
That's a pen name.
It's an MJ.
Oh my goodness. I'm excited. It's on Netflix. Look at this poster.
Show me the poster.
Look at that poster.
Show me.
I can't show you. You got to click on the link that Proto dropped in chat.
Oh.
I hate to say this, but it does feel good to have Trainer on my side right now.
Poster.
Feels good to empower Proto to go outside of the box to pick a documentary. I mean, the cast on this is nuts.
It's big. Big.
Hugh Hefner, Elton John.
Oh, God. Yeah. Oh, my God. Oh, man. What a ride. I can't wait to talk about this.
Proto is beside himself. Can we face swap that poster with Proto, perhaps? Jim and Andy, the first ever documentary on this show. Ever in 3 years.
Might be the last.
I mean, you look at Proto's track record of gamble picks, and you do the math yourself. Proto, closing thoughts for this week?
Closing thoughts. I was looking, we're coming towards the end of the year, and I was looking at my Letterboxd stats, and I'm on pace for hitting 200 movies. And I wasn't, every time I see that, like 200 movies in a year, at least for me, it seems like I don't even know how I do that. Like, how am I going to hit 200 movies? It feels, if you told me at the beginning of the year I'd watch 200 movies, I'd never believe you, even though I've done it. I did it last year as well. But I was thinking, what if we could track stats for other things in our lives, things that no one's keeping track of. Like, what if you knew how many hugs you gave out in a year?
Oh,
how about how many I love yous you gave out? So, I mean, we'll never know those things, right? Unless you're like a psychopath who's like writing them down. But we all can shoot to do more of it, even if we don't know the stats. So go and try to make good stats this week, I guess. Just tell someone you love them.
Strong words from the Movie Insider. We'll see everybody next week for Jim and Andy, The Great Beyond on Netflix. $70mm is a tape deck production featuring original artwork provided by Danny Haas. Spiritual guidance and V'ger, the robot who loves movies, provided by Pertalexis. Producer at large Dale_A. Transcripts provided by Sophie Shin and music composed by Cinematric. Prints and other merch are available on 70mmpod.com. This episode was mixed, edited, and produced by me, Slim. Support our Patreon for access to our VHS Village Discord to talk movies with new friends, access to our exclusive episodes in the 70mm vault, discounts on merch, uncut episodes, and a physical membership card mailed to you. To check out other Tape Deck podcasts, find the link in the episode notes. And if you'd like to support our friends at Letterboxd and upgrade to pro or patron status, you can do so with a 20% off discount using the links on 70mmpod.com. Goodbye.
This is a Tape Deck podcast.